When Chevrolet came out with the second generation of C10s, they created a timeless design with super sleek body lines straight from the factory. But 50 years later, when those sleek body lines have been neglected and look like this, it opens the door for some creative freedom. So for all the C10 purists out there that think I ruined this truck, this is what I started with. It's the perfect candidate to go crazy and add some modern touches, like this custom chassis I made and some wicked fender flares. In this video, I'm gonna go through the process of making my fender flares step by step. And just to clear the air, I'm gonna be fixing up this quarter panel better than it is. It's just stitched up to kind of keep the shape while I'm working on my fender flares. So without further ado, let's dive in. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is mark how much gap you want between your tire and your fender. What I did is grab a piece of 2x4 and followed the circumference of my tire perfectly. What that does is give me a perfect arch for the size of my wheels. Next up, we're going to take the wheel off the truck because we're going to have to cut into the fender to allow for the travel. So once you have your arch cut out, hopefully you don't uncover as much body fill as I did. This quarter panel was kind of experimental and I had attempted to make a wheel arch a while back, but I knew it was going to be temporary, so I didn't spend a lot of time to make it properly. So what I did is just grind down the body fill to find some bare metal so I can tack on a piece of flat bar, which is the next step. I'm just using old oil barrel steel. It's cheap and it's pretty strong compared to the tin used on newer cars today, since I don't want my arch to be flimsy. You don't have to be too fussy with the width of the piece of flat bar. You're going to be cutting this off later on in the process. It's just to have your arch down pat and have something to weld onto. Once your piece of flat bar is ready to go, you're going to put your wheel back on. And a quick side note, if this is a project vehicle, make sure your brake rotors are on, because that'll make your wheels stick out about 1/4 inch, and make sure that your truck is sitting perfectly at ride height. When you're happy with where your flare is going to sit, you can tack weld on your piece of flat bar. And it should look something along the lines of this. Once you're confident with where your flare is going to sit, you're going to have to once again remove the wheel, and now you're going to focus on the outer lip of the flare. And the way to do that is by using cardboard. I just lay a piece of cardboard right over top of the piece of flat bar, and I press on it, and it leaves a perfect pattern of the arch. After you cut out your cardboard pattern, you're going to trace it onto some metal, slide it up, trace it again, and then you have this piece. I'm using a plasma cutter to cut the steel, but you could easily use a zip cut and get a cleaner cut. If you are using a plasma cutter, make sure to leave some spots intact on your steel and let it cool off. Take your time so that you don't warp your metal. And now you can move back over to your truck and you can start tacking this on to your flat bar. Once that's on, you're going to draw a line for where you want your flare to meet your actual quarter panel. You can make this as big or as small as you want. It's kind of optional. You can see the sort of design I'm going with in this video. You're going to take multiple pieces of tape, stick them to your line that you drew, and connect them to your outer lip on your flare. And once you have all your tape on, you can rip it off and you have an exact template for the flare. Bring your tape pattern over to a piece of sheet metal and you can trace it and start cutting it. Once it's cut, you can fit it on your quarter panel and start tacking it in place. This is where you can start to see a lot of progress, but you're not done quite yet. You want to spot weld the whole thing to make it solid. Then you're going to go on the other side of your quarter panel and cut out all the unnecessary metal that we left earlier. All I have to do to finish up the metalwork on these fender flares is cut out the flat bar, but then there's going to be quite a bit of body work, so I'm going to do that in a separate video, but that's going to be pretty soon. And to give you guys a taste of what these fender flares look like on the truck, here it is. It looks incredible. I can't believe the way it turned out, and I'm super happy about it. Also, a quick little update of what I've done beside the fender flares is the brackets to hold the Crown Vic front end in place. So all I did was just make a plate the same size as the OEM bracket that comes with the lower control arm, and then I adapted it just by making this piece here, and it's welded to my engine mount.